Today I'm going to cover how I would fix Sorare. In its current form I think it works, but at the same time I detailed in my last video some key issues why the next couple of months I believe will be key for the platform. You can watch it here if you haven't seen it yet. You guys commented some really insightful stuff, so I'm going to be sharing that. I'm going to be touching on the new additions, like the addition of arenas to Sorare, how that impacts things, as well as the removal of rivals and the new common mode, and just everything in between. But before we get into it, a quick appreciation for my brand new shirt. It's typically not my colours, obviously a green man, but when you have a friend going to Japan, you've got to get them to hook you up with your favourite J-League team, so that's what we've done. I think the easiest place to start is this comment from Furpo that says, buy cards, try to win the money back, most won't, that only keeps people motivated for so long. You know, I think when I think to my last video, that is sort of the crux of it. It's like, it's so fun to build lineups and win, but if you build lineups and don't win, that's not fun. And outside of that, I don't see much opportunity to keep people engaged. Ultimately, I think Sorare is missing a lot of the fun element of Sorare. You know, when I joined, it was this idea that you get to use these cards forever. Okay, that's quite fun. It's not just a one season thing. Alternatively, in and out of the market, so liquid. You could buy from anywhere, you could buy from anyone, you could flip into different cards when you want. The market is pretty illiquid right now. Most of the volume goes via Sorare, which is obviously one way. It's a lot harder to sell cards than it is to buy cards. For me, we're also missing that discovery of new footballers that had so much fun with no financial elements to it. You know, I'm talking under 23 being a top league. I'm talking these, outrageous players you've never heard of, like in the J League and everywhere else. And yes, those opportunities are still available. But as I said, the best reward comes from winning the most. So naturally people progress to the best payout leagues, which are the Premier League or Champion Europe or the Bundesliga. So there's a lot less incentive to go out, buy a K-League team, find out how they play. That sort of fun element, all of those combined, that really weighs down this new 1 year system. And I like the 1 year system, you know, it's fun, it's got lots of potential, the sustainability is great, long-term future secured, but we also need to think beyond that. We need to have classic utility. Why is that so fucking loud, man? Which is a thought basically echoed by a comment from Craig SR. I still set lineups every week because I've put a lot of money into the game, but I am very bored of it and don't get much fun or excitement out of it. I used to enjoy trading, speculating on players that had promising futures, but as you said, that's dead now. Been playing footium and enjoying that a lot of these days. Unless the Premier League in-season cards next seasons are really undervalued, then I probably won't be playing and I'll be trying to sell. That is a similar position to me. You know, this year on Sorare, I made my money back for my in-season cards. Of course, I had fun doing that. But the idea of just doing it again, when you know most people aren't going to win, it's not really enough to keep people playing. And look, if you're a new user, I'm sure you will stay a lot longer than me that's been playing for quite a few years. But ultimately, those new users aren't jumping in at my price tag. They're not coming in for a $4.5 rare team or no chance of going to super rare and unique. And to be honest, obviously those make up the majority of payouts. Without those guys, without the bigger pots, the smaller pots will fade away as well. So for me, I'm looking at it and we need more fun elements. We need something beyond just, you know, winners win, losers lose sort of thing, because there's more losers than winners. Now I looked at this arena development, which if you don't know is basically like sort of gambling system on Essence, which also isn't gambling, but you put in 10 essence, you play against 10 people and you win sometimes and not. Now I look at it and I do think it's very fun. It's different, but it is still sort of the same elements we've been playing with a bit more risk reward. Yeah, it's probably what I'd say a step in the right direction, but I don't think that's all. I do think we need to remember classic cards had so much benefit beyond just being, you know, a drain on the Sorare pools. Now obviously I understand you can't just have the same cards winning. We had that for 3 years and you saw the effect on the market. It drained prices, made it unsustainable. Didn't really work. But I don't think a 1 year and we're done system works either. Classic cards should have value, just not as much value as in-season cards. But the more additions I see to Sorare, as do the rest of you in the comments, classic cards are just dead. For me, if you do bring value to classic cards, that brings more value to in-season cards. Now, I'm not saying infinite utility as we had before, but maybe a scaling system. So obviously 1 year you can play in-season cards, next year you can play in classic competitions, and the year after that you can play in classic competitions, but with a cup bonus or no bonus. And those sort of scaling down of cards, so you do get more than 1 year, but you don't get infinite utility. That would help with a fun element, because it's no longer just a simple, I put this money in at the start of the season, how much should I win at the end of the season? And beyond that, I think that would bring life to the secondary market, which is much needed. The concept back in the day for Sorare was much more tradey. You might flip into a player for a game week, all get wrong, flip him out the next game week. I do think that's a better system than we have now, where it's just buy, and Sorare never want you to sell your cards. So they've made it incredibly hard to sell. Little things like list or play. I think it was needed at a time just to stop the flood of cards on the market and everyone leaving, everyone selling. But overall, I think it restricts access and liquidity in the marketplace, which is a net benefit. So that sort of rule I'd get rid of. Recently, it's a small touch, but we sort of reward every position. So it's someone gets a little bit of essence at the end of the game week. Some people get XP, everyone's a winner. The game's not hard to win. But, any player sees straight through that immediately. They want the cash. So you might as well make it more top heavy again. I don't understand this shift to 20th place gets the same as 60th place in rare, and that's 200th and 600th in limited. I've always thought every position should count. So if I finish 6th, that's better than 7th. And again, that's how it in theory worked in the old system on Sorare. I think the key part of this element is we've lost a lot of the old elements which were good whilst making it sustainable, but we didn't need to lose all of the old elements. 6th was better than 7th when you were rewarded with cards. Yes, it didn't work every week because of the prize pool and being hard to manage. But in cash, it's really easy to manage. $8 is better than $7. $7 is better than $6. So why does that not scale down? Why does we not pay out the only, top 10%, and everyone else, better luck next week? Because there is always next week. So another element we see a lot recently when we're talking about the fun element of Sorare and the lack of it at the minute, it's DNPs. And I really get stuck talking about this topic because on one point I completely agree. DMPs are not fun. They don't add to the game. They take away from the game in terms of fun. But what they do bring in is balance, which is hugely needed on any fantasy game. I think the key is, if you remove the need to think about your teams, the stronger teams will always win. They'll win the most rewards. And yes, they will be naturally balanced in the market by being much more expensive. But you don't really want that. You don't want the top 5% of cards only being the cards with value. You need to give value to as many cards as you can while still having a sort of pyramid structure, so the best cards are the best, but they're not miles best. They're just slightly better than the tier below. So I don't really have a fix for DNPs unless we change how the Sorare system works, because, PSG will win their league next season. Bayern will probably win it. And in those winning seasons, they'll have so many opportunities where they just blitz teams. And if you don't even need to think about your lineup, if you don't even need to think about if they're going to rotate for next season, then I don't see it. One thing I see people talk about again is collections, giving more to collections. And I'm in the hot topic take of give much, much less to collections. I saw a comment on Twitter the other day, are you going to do anything for collections? There's nothing really to achieve outside of a 5% bonus. And I'm like, nothing to achieve outside of this massive bonus, 5% forever and ever and ever. And again, I think that takes away from the fun squad building aspects of Sorare, because you're no longer needing to be creative and make a fun team. You just run PSG stack, Bayern stack, whatever stack you want. Of course, it helps fans of the clubs, but it was a huge misstep by Sorare for me when they introduced collections and they directly tied it to what you can win in game. I don't know if you can just reverse that overnight, but we can start to try and correct that. There's a lot of things I've seen, like Rivals, where there was a couple of missteps and it's just either staying in the game forever or completely gone, whereas we could have tried to work to fix it. So let's talk about Rivals. It was introduced as a new system for new users to get up to speed with Sorare. What happened in reality was that it was very good and very rewarding, so everyone played the game. And people enjoyed it. But the problem was, it's exactly the same as Sorare now. Your fun was based on what you could win. New users were not benefiting because they were playing against more experienced players. And the kicker to this all, which still grinds my gears today, the greed element ruined Rivals, where they were trying to sell cards into a small game mode designed to help new users. So my rare cards got like a 20% bonus on anyone else. And then after time, people were like, well, that's not really fair. Every time I play against a rare player, or with, loads of cards, even limited was pretty overpowered, they just dominate the entire competition because I can't compete against a 60% bonus when, we're equal, say, standards, but if someone's got a 60% bonus, they're going to win every time. So then they initiated this random system of, okay, well, if you've got paid cards, you play against other paid cards, and the randomness of that. Eventually, it just all fizzled out. No one wanted to play because the only thing to play for was the rewards. The rewards were taken out. The rewards weren't worth spending money on. So it's this horrible system. But if you just didn't be so greedy in the first place and you said, do you know what? Rivals is a fun game. Rivals is really easy to attract people in to play. How many people play FPL for nothing? It's just fun. It was that. You didn't need these rewards. And you certainly didn't need to try and sell cards into the Rivals game. What you wanted was a fun element which showed people how to play, showed people the fun elements you could have, and then that would be a natural progression for the winning players to be like, hey, I'm playing this game loads, I'm loving it, and I'm winning consistently. I can actually spend money and do the same thing and potentially win even more money. It would be such a natural cycle, and that's what this new game mode, common game mode, is developed to be. You play exactly the same game for free, players can progress up. Now again, I do think it is completely greedy to have these in-game tokens where you try and just leech money out of new users. Like, if you believed in your product, your pro product, the common game should be free, but it should be so attractive that naturally you get people flooding in. It's like a free step. And yes, maybe you offer a couple market credits, so that gap between a free player and a limited player is narrowed. Maybe you have a one-off competition where it's like, do you know what? Everyone can play from last week's winners in the Pro League for once. So many different aspects where Sorare isn't necessarily completely broken, but I just don't understand how they don't see the most obvious pictures. So right now, you're getting horrible sentiment again because you removed a game mode that people loved and you replaced it with a new user's sort of game mode, which was meant to be this in the first place. And yeah, it looks awful when you're making a game mode you can't win, but you can pay to play. Which again, if you're a new user and someone's paying to play and beating you, it gives you just less need to play. It's exactly the same issue we saw with Rivals, where they tried to bring money into it. It's not going to work. It is tiring for someone that loves this game so much to see so much potential wasted. And I think that's ultimately like my position right now, where it's like, it's definitely a good game, But is it a good enough game for me to go and spend £5 on my Premier League team and try and win it back next season? I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm so biased because I've been playing for so many years. I've got a YouTube channel on it. I know the guys. But for someone else, I could see why it's a pretty clear cut, and I'll show you some comments on it. Alex Griffiths says, the goalposts seem to move all the time on Sorare. Tired of keeping up with it, and my cards seem to tank every time when I thought they couldn't go any lower. Sad state of affairs to the game. It used to be. Find MFL a lot more interesting. Again, I think that's what a lot of people are doing. It's like, you know, you get this bad sentiment on Sorare. The goalposts have moved so many times, and people are at the end of their patience with it. So these natural games like MFL, footium, or anything else that comes up, it's so obvious while people are taking it up because it's fun, it's different, it's new. Whereas Sorare feels just like a cesspit of negativity, missed opportunities, and it's tough to know if they are going to correct it. I'm so interested to see what Nicholas says, Nicholas Julia, the CEO, on his AMA soon, and Ask Me Anything. He's opened himself up to many questions. He's already bullet pointed all of the key topics. He's obviously very, very aware of what's going on in Sorare. I'd like to get his honest opinion on how he feels about it. But yeah, I think a lot needs to be done. There's a lot that can be done. But at the same time, I don't... It might be a little too late. Joe, backs this up with, Alex, the game is absolutely toast, mate. I'm surprised it's taking a clearly intelligent lad like yourself to realise. Little compliment there, like that. We are never getting back to what Sorare was. The model has no legs. It will never be mass adopted. I love early Sorare days, and I honestly don't enjoy it and physically can't play it without cash. Without cash, sorry. Again, very similar aspects of like, the new model isn't interesting enough. Like, I would agree, trying to get this model mass adopted, it's very, very difficult. It needs a sort of middle ground. It needs more fun elements. It needs that core football again. Because right now, just buying players to potentially win your money back, I don't see it being appealing to the masses. Like, maybe someone like me that's a massive geek that has a spreadsheet that tracks player prices and how much they've won, fine. But I am a very minority. I'm not the common user experience. I'm certainly not the mass experience. Neelan says, stop playing Sorare, just bitter, stale and boring. Enjoying MFL and it's more engaging, plus more to do rather than just submitting lineups trading, which is pretty much dead now anyway. Don't get me wrong, I'm obviously picking, this is, you know, how I would fix Sorare. I'm obviously picking the comments that sort of agree with me. Because of that, there are plenty that you know, politely disagree. Agree with some of the comments. I'm still enjoying playing. My main concern is with Classic and then reducing their utility further. Reminds me of another platform changing the goalposts. Again, you've got this sort of lost trust with the user base. I think that's clear throughout all of my comments, and they need to get that back. I don't know how they can get that back, but this essence cut at the start of last season, it was taken really, really badly. And I think on reflection, they might have just kept it as it was, because they've done all of these, like, I said it before, yes, they probably were paying out too much essence. There was better ways to fix it than just cutting it to a fine level, because you also see them bring out all these special offers again later in the season where, oh, you buy this card, you get more essence. It's like, the game was in such a good place before that cut, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty more goalposts that were moved. I just don't know. Officially Bangers Only says, I've been playing since 2022. I've had lots of funs. My main critique, though, is that they've made it harder for you to succeed. For example, when I used to win 3 Rivals games in a row when it first came out, I had a good chance to get a limited card. And then tickets and everything else he talks about. Yeah, I think that's another thing, like Rivals, where they put this mass push into it, unsustainable rewards into it. Naturally, they pull the rug on the rewards, and everyone's pissed off about it. So I think the positive with this new arena mode, which looks, you know, interesting, at least it's sustainable. Mathematically, they don't pay out more than they give. Fine. I think there's like 570 games to break even or something if you want the maths I read. But it's fun. It's different. They need more of that. They need to not move the goalpost. They need to bring trading back the best they can. And yeah, like I touched in my last video, they need to make specials special again. There is no point doing a special weekly where the rewards pool is worse than my standard pool I'm going to play in the Premier League. For me, you're consistent with All-Star, Under-23, Champion, Premier League, maybe La Liga and Bundesliga if you want them as well. But you have your, say, 4 core leagues. You play them every week. In addition, once a month, there's a mega special, which is worth more in cash terms as a bigger prize pool than these. So that gets people interested. It keeps people engaged in the product where it's like, okay, what's coming up? The top tacklers. Okay, there's a huge prize pool, 50 grand prize pool. How do I go about that? I'll trade into players. I'll come out. You know, even little things like the offers they've offered throughout the season, 99% have just been buy a card and get X. It works now and again, but if you just rinse and rinse and rinse it, people can see through it. Or not even see through it. People just get annoyed by it. It's like, just use a little bit more creativity. I think it worked well at Christmas. They did a couple of different offers, but like a secondary market fee of 0, so you're not paying a 5% tax. Sunday nights at the very start of Sorare, they did like a power hour. I actually forgot what the power hour was, but it got people engaged for that time period where everyone was on at Sunday 7 o'clock to see if there was any deals. It's those sort of elements that are missing from Sorare right now. Maybe it's just my thoughts, but I had to get them out there. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, watch another one of my videos maybe. All the best to you. Cheers.